Hello. Do you hate change? Well, I like some changes, but I'm sad about others. Evolution is ongoing, of course. People have changed physically quite dramatically over the years. We are much taller now than many years ago, even in the last 60 years or so. When I was in my late teens and 20s, I found it very difficult to find shoes in my size 8. I remember walking the length of Oxford Street and back again, crying because I couldn't find anything other than a pair of what could have been used as shoe boxes rather than shoes. Nowadays I can find what I want much more easily, and there's plenty of choice of style and colour. If you've ever visited Petworth in West Sussex, you may have noticed the very low front doors of some of the old houses along the road by Petworth House there. People were much shorter when those houses were built, so they didn't have to build too high a front door. Of course, there was the added consideration of keeping the place warm, or maybe security was an issue. Situations demand different actions. Things change. We have to adapt. Have you ever been back to where you lived as a child? Richard and I were born within 3 miles of each other, although we didn't know it then. We went back there a few years ago and visited both areas where we grew up. We went to school there, had friends. A beautiful park and an open-air Lido had vanished near my home. Ugly high-rise flats were there instead. However, the house I was born in was still there, and the brass doorstep and the wooden plaque with the brass house number on it were also there. I was thrilled, because my father made those. Richard found his family's business premises were very well maintained, but there was no clue as to what the buildings were used for. So some things stay the same. Styles of clothes have changed, decor has changed, and landscape changes. We like looking at old films, and when there's a scene in London, it's quite an eye-opener when you see the modest, gentler, sometimes rather quaint rooftops, when you consider the tall, strange shapes that we've got used to now. The disciples had a huge change in their lives to cope with, and it happened quite quickly for them, although of course we know that hundreds of years of wars and slavery were leading up to Jesus' arrival. From being fishermen, carpenters, tent makers, tax collectors, they were really thrown in at the deep end, weren't they? I often wonder how I'd have reacted in those circumstances. Supposing Jesus appeared in the flesh now, would we be ready? Would we put the kettle on for a brew? Dear Father in heaven, guide us each day to do whatever is necessary to be ready for whatever you ask of us. Amen.